I want you to just pause for a second. Seriously, stop whatever you're doing, whether you're driving, at your desk, whatever, and just listen.
Not with your ears, though.
No, not with your ears. Pay attention to the silence, or I guess the lack of it. It's Wednesday, February 4, 2026. And if you're anything like me, or like the, I don't know, dozens of people who've been messaging us since the sun came up, you feel strange?
Mm, that's the word for it.
There's a texture to the air today. It's this kind of static pressure, a hum almost that sits right behind the eyes. And, normally we just dismiss that.
Oh, yeah, you'd say, I didn't sleep well, or the
No.
coffee hasn't kicked in.
Exactly, or the news is stressful. But looking at this, this absolute mountain of data we have on the desk today, I really don't think this is psychological. I think it's physical.
It is absolutely physical. And I'm so glad you started there with that feeling, because so often when we talk about space weather, we talk about it like it's happening way out there.
Right, like it's a TV show.
Spectator sport, yeah. But the telemetry we're seeing this morning, the real-time data, it suggests that the barrier between out there and down here, well, it's effectively dissolved for the moment.
Yeah.
We are just observing a solar event. We are inside of it.
We're sitting in the front row, and we're recording this deep dive in the middle of a window that historians, assuming we have historians writing about this later, they will likely circle this date in red ink. This is not just a solar storm.
No.
We see those all the time, especially during solar maximum. This is something the analysts in our source stack are calling a triple X event. We're seeing that term pop up everywhere, from the emergency bulletins from SAT-RISC to the independent breakdowns from guys like Stefan Burns.
It's a catchy name, triple X, but the reality behind it is it's pretty profound. It implies a compounding of energy, a rapid-fire sequence that, statistically, we really shouldn't be seeing. It's an outlier event.
Okay, so let's set the stage for everyone. The immediate urgency is this. There is a billion-ton cloud of magnetized plasma, a CME, a coronal mass ejection, that is, as we speak, slamming into Earth's magnetic shield.
It arrived today, right on schedule.
But it's not just one cloud, is it? That's the key.
No, and that right there, that's the crucial distinction. If this were a single isolated event, we'd be talking about, a nice aurora display, maybe reaching down into the mid-latitudes, some radio static. Annoying, but not critical.
Right.
But what we have is a sequence. It's a train of shock waves. And they are arriving at a velocity that is, frankly, it's hard to even comprehend. We're talking over 1,000 kilometers per second.
1,000 kilometers a second. Give me some scale on that.
Okay, think about this. That's a shock wave that travels the distance from New York to London in a handful of seconds. It's not a push. It is a kinetic hammer blow.
Wow. Okay. So the mission for this deep dive is to look past the usual headlines, because normally when this stuff happens, you turn on the news and they're talking about the power grid.
Will the lights go out in Texas? Is my GPS going to work?
Exactly. And look, we have those sources here. We've got the heavy technical data from the Sentinel-6 mission that confirms, yes, the technology is absolutely at risk. But we want to do something different today. We want to ask the question that usually gets you, labeled as fringe.
The question that gets you uninvited from cocktail parties in polite scientific company.
Right. Even though the data is pointing right at it, we want to ask the biological question.
The human question.
Yes. If the Earth is a giant magnet, and that magnet is currently ringing like a bell because it just got hit by this solar hammer, and if we, as biological beings, have magnetic receptors in our own bodies, which is a scientific fact, what is this storm doing to us?
Is the ultimate deep dive question, isn't it? We're going to be exploring that exact interface between geophysics and human biology. And I think it's important we're clear about the source stack today, because it is eclectic. It's a mix.
It's a very interesting mix.
We have the hard, dry technical papers from NASA, from the NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center, the numbers, but we are also pulling in academic papers on what's called electric universe theory, on plasma cosmology, and some just fascinating studies on biological coupling.
And a quick disclaimer right at the top, before we really launch into this, we are going to explore the edge. We're going to talk about theories that, frankly, challenge the standard model of how the universe works. We are not here to debunk them.
And we're not here to preach them as gospel either.
No, we are here to ask, what if? We're here to see if these alternative frameworks can maybe explain that wildness we're all feeling a little bit better than the standard textbook does right now.
That's the goal. Rigorous speculation, grounded in the event that's happening right now. So let's look at the catalyst.
Yeah, take us back. Monday, February 2nd, the Triple X event. What actually happened on the surface of the sun to kick all of this off?
It all centers on one specific sunspot region. It's designated AR 4366. Now, astronomers had been watching this spot for days. It was physically huge. You could see it with the right equipment from Earth. But more importantly, it was magnetically complex.
What does that mean, magnetically complex?
We call it a delta-class magnetic field. So the simple version is, imagine taking the north pole of a powerful magnet and jamming it directly against the south pole of another powerful magnet, and just holding them there under immense pressure. The field lines are twisted, they're sheared, they're just desperate to reconnect.
So it's a coiled spring. It's full of tension.
A catastrophically coiled spring. So we expect it to snap, we expect it to flare. A flare is just that, it's a reconnection event. The magnetic lines snap, they release a colossal amount of energy, and then they reconfigure into a simpler, more stable shape.
It's like popping a blister. The pressure is released.
Exactly. The region should, by all rights, relax after that. But AR 4366 did not follow the rules. At 0.18 UTC, it fired an X8.1 flare. Now let's just pause right there for a second.
An X8.1.
An X8.1 is massive. To give you some context, that's the largest solar flare we have seen since the 2017 cycle. That, on its own, is a major headline event. We'd be talking about that for days.
That's the big one we're usually waiting for. That's the main event.
That should have been the main event.
Yeah.
But usually after a monster release like that, the sunspot is just... it's exhausted. The magnetic tension is spent. It should go quiet, enter a recovery phase.
But it didn't.
AR 4366 did not do that. Within 60 minutes, a single hour, it fired 2 more X-class flares from the exact same location.
Three X-class flares in an hour. Is that normal? I've never heard of that.
It is not normal. It is statistically aberrant. It's what the analysts were looking at are calling temporal compression. And it suggests something really fundamental was happening.
Yeah.
It suggests the region wasn't just releasing stored-up energy.
What does it do?
It was in a state of what they're calling runaway instability. Think of it this way. Usually an earthquake relieves the pressure on a fault line, right? But imagine if an earthquake somehow increased the pressure, triggering an immediate second and then a third, even bigger quake from the same spot.
That would mean the force driving it is still active.
It implies the underlying mechanism that's feeding energy into that spot is incredibly powerful and, frankly, broken. It's not working the way it's supposed to.
So instead of a musket that you fire once and then you have to reload, we are dealing with a fully automatic weapon.
That is a perfect analogy. It just kept cycling. And because it happened so fast, because those explosions were right on top of each other, it created what the plasma physicists call a complex ejector.
Okay, break that term down for us. Complex ejector.
Okay, so the first flare, the big X8.1, it launches a CME, that first cloud of plasma. Now, that cloud has to push its way through the ambient solar wind, the stuff that's always flowing out from the sun, so it faces some resistance.
It's like a snowplow clearing the road.
It's a snowplow. And what's behind a snowplow?
An empty road, a draft.
Exactly. It carves out a low-density wake behind it. So when the second and third flares fire, just minutes later, remember, the CMEs they launch are traveling into a near vacuum. They face almost no resistance, so they travel faster.
They speed up, and they catch up to the first cloud?
They catch up and they slam right into the back of it.
Oh, wow.
You get this pile-up effect, a Cannibal CME event. And the physics of it are brutal. The magnetic field strength isn't just added together. It's not 1 + 1 + 1. It gets compressed and multiplied. You create this wall of plasma that is incredibly dense and fantastically magnetized. And that wall is what's hitting Earth's magnetic field right now.
But it's not just about the hammer, right? You also have to talk about the anvil. You mentioned in the notes that Earth wasn't exactly having a quiet week before this thing arrived.
No, and this is the other critical variable, the pre-stress system variable. If you look at the SAT-RISC data for all of January, the Earth's magnetosphere, our shield, it's been ringing for weeks. It hasn't had a chance to rest.
What was causing that?
Just a series of M-class flares, some minor radiation storms, nothing like this, but a constant peppering. This system never got a chance to return to what we call baseline. It's like it's been in a low-grade fever for a month.
The sources, I remember, they used the swing analogy.
It's really the best way to visualize what resonance does. Imagine a kid on a swing. If the swing is hanging perfectly still, dead center, and you give it a good push, it absorbs the energy and it moves in a predictable way.
Right.
But now, imagine the swing is already moving. It's already high up in its arc, and it's swinging back toward you. And then, at that exact moment of maximum velocity, you hit it with that same push.
Oh, it's just chaos. The whole thing goes flying.
You get a completely nonlinear reaction. You might flip the swing right over the bar.
Yeah.
That is the state of Earth's magnetic field today. Our electron belts are depleted in some zones and totally saturated in others. The slot region, which is usually a safe zone for satellites between the radiation belts, is just full of radiation. We are pre-stressed.
So this triple X shockwave isn't hitting a static, strong shield.
It's hitting a system that is already trembling, already oscillating wildly.
Which means the impact is amplified.
It's amplified and it's unpredictable. We are truly in uncharted waters here regarding how the power grid, our technology, and the biosphere itself will react to a hit of this magnitude on a system that is this tired.
Okay, so that's the physical reality of what's happening. A rapid-fire cannon pointing at a trembling target. It's a pretty stark picture.
Yeah.
But now I want to pivot. I want to talk about the why. Because if we stick to the standard NASA textbook, the sun is it's a ball of gas doing random fusion things.
An isolated, self-powered nuclear furnace.
Right. But the Electric Universe papers in our stack, they offer a completely different narrative for what a star is. And frankly, given the sheer wildness of this event, that standard narrative feels a bit, well, it feels lacking.
It feels incomplete. It really does. The standard model says gravity is king. Gravity collapses a cloud of gas. The pressure starts nuclear fusion. Heat and light go out. The end. The sun is an island.
Okay.
But the Electric Universe, or EU theory, and this is championed by people like Wallace Thornhill, building on the work of Ralph Jurgens, it proposes that the sun isn't an island at all. It's a node.
A node in a network.
A node in a galactic electrical circuit. The core idea is that space isn't empty. It's filled with plasma. And plasma is an excellent conductor of electricity. They theorize that massive, invisible currents of electricity, they call them Birkeland currents, flow along the magnetic field lines of the galaxy.
So, like cosmic power lines.
Exactly like cosmic transmission lines. And stars in this model are simply the focal points of this electrical discharge. They're where the currents pinch together. So the sun isn't a battery generating its own power from within.
It's a transformer.
It's a load. It's a transformer plugged into the galactic grid, powered externally.
That is a massive, massive paradigm shift. Because if the sun is a transformer, then a solar flare isn't just a random hiccup in its fusion process.
No, it's not a random burp. In the EU model, a solar flare is a circuit breaker tripping. It's an arc discharge. It's a power surge. If the current flowing into the sun from the galaxy fluctuates, if the input voltage from our galactic arm suddenly goes up, the sun has to deal with that excess energy. It can't contain it.
So it arcs, it flashes.
It goes into a high-energy discharge state to shed that load and try to find stability again.
Okay, so let's apply that model to our triple X event right now. Sunspot AR 4366 isn't just some random blemish on the surface.
In this model, it's the point of connection to the galactic circuit. It's the anode. It's where the wire plugs in. And the fact that it fired 3 times, bang, 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 in an hour, suggests that the input voltage, the current from the galaxy, is surging unpredictably. The sun is desperately trying to stabilize the load.
So you're saying this event might not have originated on the sun, but through the sun?
That's the implication of the theory, yes.
Yeah.
The sun is a passive component reacting to a change in its larger environment.
Wow. And what's the evidence for this? I mean, it's a huge claim. The sources mention something called the pinch effect.
Right, and this is where they connect laboratory physics to the cosmos.
Yeah.
This is not just theory. In a plasma lab, if you run a high voltage current through plasma, it doesn't just disperse evenly. It does something very strange. The magnetic forces created by the current itself squeeze the plasma into filaments.
They pinch together.
They pinch together into these tight, twisted filaments. They look like braided ropes.
Like wires.
Exactly.
Good.
And then the EU proponents say, okay, now look through our telescopes. You look at the Double Helix Nebula, which is one of the sources we pulled. It's this massive structure near the galactic center. It looks, for all the world, like a braided copper wire, a twisted pair of filaments.
And gravity doesn't make twisted ropes?
Gravity makes spheres. It makes disks. It doesn't make braided filaments that stretch for light years. Electricity does. So they look at the filamentary, web-like structure of the entire universe, and they say, that's not a gravitational structure, that's wiring.
So, if we follow this logic, if the solar system is a circuit and the sun is the main transformer for our little neighborhood, what is Earth?
Earth is a smaller component plugged into that transformer. We're a sub-circuit. We are what's called inductively coupled. Our magnetic field is constantly interacting with the sun's. You cannot change one without affecting the other.
Yeah.
If the voltage on the sun surges, the voltage on Earth surges too. You simply cannot separate them.
This is it. This is the core of our deep dive today. Because if Earth is a component, then the biology living on the Earth, We're also components. We are part of the circuitry.
with the microcomponents.
Yeah.
And this is where we have to leave the telescope behind and pick up the microscope. Because for decades, there was this hard wall between astronomy and biology. Astronomers would say, the magnetic fields from space are far too weak to have any meaningful effect on human biology.
We don't have enough metal in us, was the old line. We're not magnetic.
Right. But that was just flat out wrong. And the Caltech study by the geobiologist Joseph Kirchhoff, that just shattered the assumption. He didn't just theorize about it. He went looking for the hardware, and he found it.
What did he find?
He discovered magnetite crystals. That's F3O4, a type of iron oxide embedded directly in human brain tissue.
Actual, literal magnetic crystals in our heads.
Millions of them.
Right.
Millions of them per gram of tissue. And they're concentrated in very specific, very sensitive areas, like the meninges, that's the membrane that covers the brain, and then the blood-brain barrier. And these aren't just, metabolic waste products. They're biogenic. Our own cells build them on purpose.
So we have millions of tiny biological compass needles in our brains.
That's precisely what they are. And in a stable magnetic field, like on a normal quiet day, they stay relatively aligned and quiet. But imagine what happens when a XXX storm hits. The Earth's magnetic field doesn't just get stronger or weaker. It starts thrashing. It's vibrating. It's twisting.
And those tiny crystals in your brain,
they react. They are physically coupled to the larger field. They try to follow it.
they twist, they move.
They torque. They physically twist in place. And Kirchhoff's research suggests a mechanism for how this affects us. He believes these crystals are mechanically linked to ion channels in our cell membranes. So when the crystal torques, it physically pulls open a pore in the cell.
And that lets stuff in or out.
It forces it open. It lets calcium ions and sodium ions rush into the neuron. It changes the electrical potential of the cell. It could force the neuron to fire.
Okay, wait. Let me just get this straight. You are saying that a magnetic storm happening 93 million miles away can cause a physical crystal in my brain to twist, and that can physically force a neuron in my brain to fire without me ever thinking a thought?
That is the proposed mechanism, yes.
Right.
It's direct physical transduction of magnetic energy into electrochemical energy. It creates, essentially, noise in your neural network, random, unasked-for signals. And how does the brain interpret a sudden flood of random noise? Anxiety, that hum, a sense of impending doom for no reason. Your fight or flight response gets triggered because the hardware itself is being physically rattled, even if there's no visible tiger in the room.
That explains the wildness perfectly. It's not a mood, it's a signal. Stefan Burns, one of our sources, he talks about this constantly. He says, if you feel crazy today, check the space weather. It's probably not you.
And we have the larger statistical data to back them up. The papers we looked at reference study after study showing correlations between extreme geomagnetic activity and, well, pretty much everything bad. Increased psychiatric admissions, spikes in suicide attempts, outbreaks of social violence. It's sometimes called the human excitability factor.
But it's not just our brains, right? It's the heart. Burns always says, check in with your heart. What's the connection there?
The heart is, by far, the strongest electromagnetic generator in the human body. Its magnetic field is something like 5,000 times stronger than the brain's magnetic field. It literally extends out from your body for several feet. And it couples directly with the Earth's own resonant frequencies.
The Schumann resonances?
The Schumann resonances, yeah. The baseline electrical heartbeat of the planet. So when the Earth's field gets hit by a CME and it goes out of tune,
We'll go out of tune with it.
we lose coherence.
Yeah.
And that can manifest as arrhythmias, heart palpitations, that feeling of pressure or fluttering in the chest.
Yeah.
It's a direct loss of coherence between our internal oscillator, the heart, and the external oscillator, which is the Earth itself.
Okay, this all sounds frankly terrifying. It sounds like we are just helpless victims of space weather, just puppets on a magnetic string. But there was another perspective in the sources, the more esoteric view, the idea that this isn't just interference, it might be information.
The upgrade narrative. This is where we step firmly into the realm of speculation, but it's a speculation that fits the electric universe model perfectly. If the sun is a transformer in a galactic circuit, and a solar flare is a modulation of the signal coming through that circuit,
Then the XXX event isn't just noise.
it's not noise. It's a download. It's a new data packet.
A download of what? What does that even mean?
New patterns, perhaps. New information. Think about something like neuroplasticity. We know for a fact that we can apply magnetic fields to the brain, like with TMS therapy, to treat depression. We can literally use magnets to help the brain rewire its pathways away from old, stuck patterns.
Okay, right.
So what if a global magnetic storm is, in effect, a planetary scale TMS session? What if it's a global rewiring event, breaking up old, rigid neural and societal patterns?
So the anxiety, the sleepless nights, the heart palpitations, that's the friction of the rewiring process.
It could be seen as the resistance of the new frequency. The sources that go down this path suggest that this new higher frequency energy is pushing all life on Earth toward a higher state of complexity, a higher state of coherence, a kind of graduation.
Wow, that completely changes the frame. Instead of being attacked by the sun, we are being tuned by it.
And tuning an instrument is often a very discordant, uncomfortable process until you finally hit the right note.
As above, so below. That phrase, it just kept coming up over and over in my reading. And looking at the weather map for today, it feels incredibly literal. The chaos in space seems to be perfectly mirrored by the chaos on the ground.
It's more than synchronicity. There's a physics to it. Let's look at today's map, February 4th. We have a bomb cyclone absolutely exploding off the East Coast. That's a hurricane-force winter storm. We have the polar vortex shattering over the Midwest, sending Arctic air plunging south.
And usually meteorologists talk about low-pressure systems and warm fronts. They don't ever mention sunspots. There's a wall between those two sciences.
But the Sadeghi paper that's in our stack, it connects them directly. It's the circuit theory of weather. And it all comes down to cosmic rays.
Okay, explain that link. How does a sunspot over there create a cyclone right here?
So for clouds to form, water vapor needs something to condense onto. It needs a seed.
Dust, pollen, that kind of thing?
Right. But a major source of these seeds are ions in the atmosphere. And those ions are created when cosmic rays, these super high energy particles from deep space crash into our atmosphere. They create what's called a nucleation site.
Okay, so cosmic rays help make clouds. Got it.
Now, what protects us from being fried by cosmic rays?
The magnetic field.
Magnetic field. It acts as a shield. So when a solar storm like this one hits, it punches holes in the shield. It distorts it, it weakens it. This changes dramatically how many cosmic rays get into the lower atmosphere.
It changes the number of seeds available for clouds.
Drastically.
Right.
And it also changes the electrical potential, the voltage difference between the ionosphere at the top of the sky and the ground. The entire atmosphere is a giant capacitor, and if you suddenly overcharge that capacitor with a solar storm,
We're going to get lightning, you're going to get storm.
you're going to drive intense weather events. You get the rapid intensification of hurricanes. You get bomb cyclones. You get weather that seems to come out of nowhere.
So the weather isn't just weather, it's a planetary discharge event.
It's the planet trying to balance its electrical equation in response to the sun. And the fascinating part, or the scary part, depending on your perspective, is that human society seems to act in exactly the same way.
The social tinderbox theory?
Precisely. If you accept the premise that humans are bioelectric beings and that our collective baseline voltage is being cranked up by this storm, then you have to expect sparks to fly.
People are shorter-tempered, leaders are more aggressive, everything feels more volatile.
Bon Burns calls it a tinderbox. The underlying societal issues, the politics, the inequality, the stress, that's all the dry wood that's been piling up for years. The solar storm doesn't create the wood, but it provides the spark. And history is full of examples of revolutions, riots, and major social upheavals that peaked during periods of intense solar maximums.
There's that wildness I felt this morning, that tension in the air. It's literally the collective human voltage rising.
We're a herd animal, ultimately. And when the environment signals danger or change through these deep primal magnetic mechanisms, the herd reacts. And usually the first reaction is volatility.
This makes the whole technology discussion almost seem trivial by comparison, but we have to touch on it. Because while our biology is plastic and can maybe upgrade, our satellites are incredibly rigid.
And that's the immediate tangible danger right now. The data coming from the SatRisk consortium about the slot region is it's genuinely alarming.
Remind everybody what the slot region is.
It's supposed to be the gap between the inner and outer Van Allen radiation belts. It's usually a quieter zone magnetically. It's a relatively safe haven where we've parked a lot of our most critical and expensive hardware, GPS satellites, communications, and so on.
And the data from this week shows... What?
It shows the slot region is gone.
Gone? What do you mean gone?
It's been saturated. The storm has pumped so much energy, so many high-energy particles into the system that the inner and outer radiation belts have swelled up and basically merged. There's no safe zone anymore.
So all the satellites we parked in that safe spot?
Are cooking right now. And it's not just surface damage from radiation. The Sentinel-6 mission report talks about a much more insidious problem called internal charging.
Okay, what's that?
This is where very high-energy electrons are so powerful they don't just hit the skin of the satellite. They burrow through the shielding. They lodge themselves deep inside the circuit boards, inside the insulation around the wiring.
Like a microscopic ticking time bomb.
That's exactly what it is. They
Yeah.
just sit there and build up an electrical charge until the potential gets too high, and then zap, you get a microscopic lightning bolt deep inside the satellite's brain, and it fries the logic.
And there's no way to fix that. It's just dead.
It's a multi-billion-dollar piece of space junk. And the really scary data point in that report is that the proton belts aren't decaying like they should. Usually after a storm, the radiation clears out in a few days. The models are showing that this level of pollution in near-Earth space could last for months. We've effectively clogged the drain.
You know, this brings up the ultimate contrast of this whole deep dive, doesn't it? Technological fragility versus biological resilience.
It really does.
Yeah.
It highlights our incredible hubris. We have built an entire global civilization that is utterly dependent on a perfectly stable magnetic environment. We assumed the baseline would never change. We built a house of cards on a table that we've just discovered is vibrating.
And the wind is blowing, a very strong wind.
But we, the biological entities on this planet, we are not cards. We are, in a sense, part of the wind. We're fluid. We have lived through solar maximums for hundreds of thousands of years. Our ancestors survived magnetic excursions where the North and South poles actually flipped entirely.
We didn't have GPS to lose back then, but we had intuition. We had our internal compass.
And we had that magnetite. One of the more esoteric sources we looked at had a beautiful line that said, "You will never feel the extreme changes, as your body will operate in alignment."
What does that mean, practically speaking? How does that feel?
I think it means that while the rigid, brittle technology breaks under this kind of pressure, the biological system adapts. It's called homeostasis. If the background energy of our environment rises, our bodies might struggle for a few days. That's the anxiety, the heart palpitations, the exhaustion. But then we upregulate. We find a new balance. We sync with the new, higher baseline.
So on some level, we're designed for this.
We are children of this star. Of course, we're designed to handle its moods. The upgrade isn't some kind of magic. It's just accelerated adaptation.
Okay, so let's bring this home. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm looking at the date, it's February 4th, and I'm feeling that hum, that pressure, that wildness. What do I do? How do I navigate this storm?
Well, the first step is what we've just spent all this time doing. Context. Understanding. Know that the XXX event is real. Understand that the sun is in a state of what they're calling runaway instability.
Just having the knowledge removes the fear of the unknown. It puts a name to the feeling.
Exactly. So when you feel that sudden spike of anxiety for no reason or that wave of exhaustion hits you in the afternoon, don't immediately spiral into, "What's wrong with me? I'm having a breakdown."
Right.
Instead, you can think, okay, the K-index probably just hit 8. My magnetite is reacting to the geomagnetic storm.
It creates a buffer. It lets you observe the feeling without becoming completely consumed by it.
Be the observer of your own biology. And then extend that outwards to others. Realize that every single person around you is swimming in the exact same magnetic soup.
Yes.
So if your boss is screaming and if the driver next to you is dangerously aggressive, that's the tinderbox. Don't add your spark to it.
Be the water, not the spark.
Be the ground. Connect to the earth, literally. Go outside if you can.
Yeah,
Take your shoes off. Let your own bioelectric system sync with the planets. It can help stabilize you.
And there was one final thought in the stack that I really want to leave everyone with. It's the deep time perspective. It's the 50 million year view.
Yes. This is the most provocative what if of them all. We know from the geological record that 50 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, the Earth was a fundamentally different planet. It was a tropical world, pole to pole, no ice caps, giant flora and fauna, a global greenhouse.
And the science shows the magnetic field was much, much weaker then. The entire energetic environment was different.
The magnetic environment dictates the climate, and it dictates the biology that can thrive in that climate. So if the sun is fundamentally changing the magnetic environment now, if this runaway instability isn't just a temporary glitch, but a symptom of a larger, longer-term shift in the sun's output.
Are we just witnessing a storm? Or are we witnessing the terraforming of our own planet?
Are we seeing the very beginning stages of a new Earth? A higher energy, lower magnetic field Earth, like the one that existed 50 million years ago?
And if we are we as a species and a society ready to inhabit it?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Are we rigid like our satellites, destined to break under the strain? Or are we fluid enough to adapt and evolve?
I want you to just sit with that thought for a while. If you can, look up at the sky tonight. You might just see auroras in places they have no business being. Check in with your heart rate and just breathe.
We'll get through the shift.
Ah.
We were built for it.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Stay safe out there and stay fluid.
Signing off.
We'll see you on the other side.